What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to talk about Jake LaMotta and his 6-fight series with the great Sugar Ray Robinson. Now, Jake LaMotta was always known as the Bronx Bull. His original name was Jacoby LaMotta. He was born July 10th, 1922 in the Bronx, New York. I had the pleasure of meeting Jake LaMotta several times. He was some individual, told me funny stories. But I had the opportunity of learning a great deal about Jake LaMotta. In 1922, as you know, was some year, because that would be the year that the Pittsburgh Windmill, Harry Greb, would separate the America's Light Heavyweight Championship belt from Gene Tunney, who would eventually become the World Heavyweight Champion, 1926, against Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Molar. But it would also become the year that Nat Flasher would begin his saga of the Ring magazine. And LaMotta would die September 19, 2017 in the Bronx, New York. He was 97 years of age at the time of his death. He stood 5 feet 8 inches and he weighed a middleweight in light heavyweight division, 67-inch reach. He had total bouts of 106 fights, 83 wins, 30 knockouts, 19 losses, the same as Ray Robinson. 19 losses. That's incredible. And he'd be stopped 3 times. He would have 4 draws. On March 3rd, 1941, he would defeat Charlie Mackley, St. Nicholas Arena, located on 66th Street, New York. That would be his professional debut. On that undercard, you would have Lulu Castellano, 34-0. He would defeat Minnie DeMoore. You would also have Aldi Spaldi, who was 78, 22-5, and he would defeat Frank Velez. Now, those of you who don't know who Aldi Spaldi is, 1937, the great Henry Armstrong would fight 27 times in the year of 1937. He would knock out all his opponents but one fighter, and that would be Aldi Spaldi. Aldi Spaldi was a very, very good fighter. Now, April 4th, 1954, he would lose to Billy Carone. The referee was Petey Cerrone. Petey Cerrone refereed that fight, and he would be the man that the great Henry Armstrong would separate the featherweight championship of the world belt, Madison Square Garden, and become the first black featherweight champion from the United States. On that undercard, you would have Norman Hayes, now, Jake LaMotta would also face Lorenzo Strickland, Jose Basora. Friday, October 2nd, 1942. He would have a 10-round unanimous decision loss to the great Sugar Ray Robinson, New York, Madison Square Garden. The referee was Frank Foreman. On the undercard of that fight, you would have California Jackie Wilson. Amazing. January 15th, 1943. California Jackie Wilson, who will be 47-3-2. New York, Madison Square Garden. You would also have Chalky Wright on that card as well. Incredible. February 5th, on a Friday night, 1943, Sugar Ray Robinson, who was 40-0 at the time, would face Jake LaMotta at the Olympic Stadium in Detroit. And Ray Robinson would lose his first fight. Referee was Sam Hennessy. It would be a 10-round unanimous decision. Ray Robinson would go through the ropes. And it was shocking to all who followed boxing, because Ray Robinson never lost a fight. You see, he was 85-0 as an amateur. 85 wins, 69 knockouts. He had 40 knockouts in the very first round. Began his professional debut October 4th, 1940, on the undercard of the great Henry Armstrong, when he was attempting to defend his title against Finchy Zivit. Ray Robinson was an amateur star. He defeated everyone. Andy Nanell, Louis Spider Valentine, all the top names in the New York and inner city Golden Gloves. So Friday, February 26, 1943, Sugar Ray Robinson, who was 41-1 at that time, would have a rematch with Jake LaMotta at the Olympic Auditorium in Detroit. And Ray Robinson would defeat Jake LaMotta. Referee, once again, was Sam Hennessy. And this time it was unanimous. No questions asked. And these men would go back and forth throughout their career. I mean, unbelievable. As I stated, Jake LaMotta was a light heavyweight in 1939 in the diamond gloves. Ray Robinson was a featherweight in 39 in the New York and inner city golden gloves. And these two meet 3 years later. LaMotta was a middleweight. Robinson was moving out of the lightweight division to the welterweight division. I mean, that's fascinating. On the undercard, you had Ossie Harris. Another good fighter. But Jake LaMotta would face Fritzy Zivit 4 times, would win 3 and lose 1. Johnny Walker, Ossie Harris. Friday, April 21st, 1944. He would face Lloyd Marshall in Cleveland and lose a unanimous decision. Referee was Jackie Davis. Friday, February 23rd, 1945. He'd be in the ring with Sugar Ray Robinson once again in New York's Madison Square Garden. He would lose 10-round unanimous decision. Referee was Eddie Joseph. On the undercard of that fight, you had Tony Pallone. And he faced Sid Harbor. But Jake LaMotta would also fight fighters such as George Sugar Costner. Costner couldn't get out of the round with Ray Robinson on 2 separate occasions in the first round. He would fight George Sugar Costner, Chicago Stadium. Be in the ring with Burt Littell, Black Murderers Row middleweight, Boston Garden. Tommy Bell fought him twice, New York Madison Square Garden. Coolidge Miller. Coolidge Miller was a very good fighter. He fought him at the Park Arena in the Bronx, New York. O'Neal Bell, Olympic Stadium in Detroit. He would defeat him. Friday, November 14th, 1947, Blackjack Billy Fox. He was 43-1. New York's Madison Square Garden. The referee was Frank Foreman. And Blackjack Billy Fox would defeat Jake LaMotta in 4 rounds. Jake LaMotta took a dive in that fight. Jake LaMotta had a brother by the name of Joe LaMotta. He had issues with the mob. Financial issues. And he kept begging his brother to go for this dive. Because the mob found a way to get their money back. And by Jake LaMotta taking a dive, would pay off Joe LaMotta's debt. Now, Joey LaMotta had a fighting career himself. And he became Jake's manager And Jake LaMotta cried for a long time after that because he had a lot of pride. And he would refuse to go down. Referee stopped the fight. And everyone was throwing things into the ring. Didn't look good. In 1960, he was called into the commission's office, State Athletic Commission, because they wanted to investigate that particular night. Matter of fact, Sugar Ray Robinson was being honored in 1965 in New York's Madison Square Garden. And you would have Carl Bobo Olsen, Gene Fomer, Carmen Basilio, and Randy Turpin saluting Ray Robinson. These are all the middleweights that he would regain the title from. But the man he initially took the title from, Jake LaMotta, could not be there because he was still being investigated by the State Athletic Commission. LaMotta, meanwhile, would be facing fighters such as Cecil Hudson, Tony Gennaro, Anton Radic, Joey Jadon, Marcel Sedan, and Robert Villamain. He would lose for the first time by KO. Light heavyweight Danny Nardico, December 31st, 1952. He'll also be in the ring with Eugene Hairston, May 21st, 1952, Olympic Stadium in Detroit. LaMotta was scheduled to face Rocky Graziano, June 28th, 1950. Graziano fractured his left hand. Now, Joe LaMotta, who was the brother of Jake LaMotta, had a fighting record of 32-5-2. And he realized it really wasn't for him. And when Jake came on the scene and was doing as well as he was, he decided to take over his career as a manager. LaMotta's two sons died in the same year. One from liver cancer, and the other of a plane crash. Sugar Ray Robinson, his name was Walker Smith Jr. He was born May 3rd, 1921. He died April 12th, 1989. 67 years of age at the time of his death. He stood 5'11", had a 72.5-inch reach. He was from Harlem, New York. Originally from Georgia. He was 85. 69 KOs. No losses. 40 knockouts in the very first round as an amateur. He was in the New York Golden Gloves, in the inner city Golden Gloves. 1939, open class. He was in the ring with Tony Savalulo and Louis Spider Valentine. Inner City Golden Gloves in 1940. Johnny Green, Willie Smith. And Robinson coached the 1941 Inner City Golden Gloves tournament. That was in Chicago. Loses 40th fight, Jake LaMotta. He won his next 91 fights straight in a row. Ray Robinson was something else. Jake LaMotta, one of a kind. These two men knew each other very well. Jake LaMotta would often say, I fought Ray Robinson so many times. It's no wonder I don't have diabetes. Because Ray Robinson's name was Sugar. You see, I met one of the sons of Jake LaMotta. He had a tomato paste or tomato sauce product. And he was campaigning that product, and he had Jake with him. And I met both of them. I already knew Jake, but I met both of them during that campaign. And it goes to show you how life is. You never know when your last day comes. Always make the best of it. And who told me that? Not only my dad, but Ray Robinson. Thanks for hanging in there with me. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to these great fighters. Thanks for your time. May everyone have a Merry Christmas. Salute.